Good evening, America. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from Washington, D.C. And, of course, the WiredToFishCoffee.com studios. Wired to Fish Coffee, you know this. My favorite coffee, my family's favorite coffee, now the official coffee of Just the News. Thousands of Just the News fans are now buying it. Go check it out. See what makes it special. Not only the great taste, but also the great work it does in the field supporting conservation and Christian faith organizations. If you go to Wired, the number 2 fishcoffee.com, or just point your camera at that QR code, you'll get a fantastic 10% discount just by using the promo code JUSTNEWS. All right, promises kept after they were made. A day of big developments for our nation. President Trump has secured the first ceasefire in the 3-year-old Russian-Ukraine war. This one halting military attacks in the Black Sea. Both sides have agreed to this, and they're happy with what they got in this first thing, and it sets the stage for more significant steps towards peace. We'll have more on that later in the show with some of our national security experts. Meanwhile, the president today did something close to my heart. He finally ordered the declassification of all remaining FBI Crossfire Hurricane documents showing the abuses that occurred in the now discredited Russia collusion investigation. He also issued a pardon today for a man who played a significant role in unraveling the Hunter Biden scandal. He's former business partner Devon Archer. We've had him on this show. Archer was a key witness in the congressional hearings in 2023 that turned the Hunter Biden scandal from what Democrats claimed was a conspiracy theory to the reality of a pay-to-play political scandal. You can read all about those developments over at justthenews.com. Go check them out. We'll keep you up to date all through the night. And finally, let's dig into what Democrats and news media are trying to position as the first scandal of the Trump 47 presidency, the Signal chat that reportedly included high-level Trump officials like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Vice President J.D. Vance, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and 14 others. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard wouldn't comment yet today if she was part of that chat. Now, the Signal chat spoke about U.S. plans to launch airstrikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen last weekend, and a journalist from the Atlantic magazine was mistakenly added. The claim many in the media are making is that this chat included classified information, and DNI Gabbard was asked about it while testifying before the Senate today. Here, listen to what she had to say when asked by Democrat Senator Mark Warner if any classified information was shared in that Signal chat.
Did you contact the Defense Secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a skiff?
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then if there was no classified material, share it with the committee. If this was a rank and file intelligence officer who did this kind of careless behavior, what would you do with them?
Senator, I'll reiterate that there was no classified material that was shared in that.
And if there's no classified materials, share.
All right. Well, that's one of the things that came up over and over again, the same answer every time it was asked. Now, a second question that's come up is, should these officials have been using it at all to share any information? That's been made out to be a huge deal today, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe addressed that at the hearing as well. Take a listen.
One of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA Director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration. It is permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels.
All right, folks, so two big things. If the Trump administration story holds true, there was no classified information in the chat, and the chat was allowed to be used. Now, we can argue about whether that was a good idea, and I think President Trump's already beginning to create some new solutions so we don't have a situation like this in the future, but those are two facts you're probably not going to hear in the nightly news anywhere else. All right, let me bring in my amazing co-host, Amanda Head. Amanda, I know you've been watching a lot of other developments today at the White House and elsewhere. What do you got?
Listen, I keep saying carrier pigeons and walkie-talkies. Let's go back old school. All right. I actually want to focus a little more on how the media is hyping up this story today. For example, here's The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, the person who was added to that group Signal chat, casually suggesting on MSNBC that maybe some of these officials should go to jail for mishandling classified information.
you know, in the Army, in the armed forces, at the lower levels, they also have to adhere to cybersecurity rules and social media rules. And you can go to jail. You can go to Leavenworth for mishandling what we would consider to be minor classified information, right? And so, and if you look in military Reddit and a lot of other places where people are discussing this right now, there's a lot of, hey, you know, we would get busted for this, but they don't get busted for it.
But as John so aptly pointed out, Signal was approved by the Biden administration to be used for these types of government conversations. And you can certainly argue that it may not have been the best idea, and no doubt adding the editor of The Atlantic was a gigantic mistake, but Watergate, this probably is not. But even after all of this, it seems that many Americans believe the country is still on the right track. CNN went through some of the polls today, and here's what they found.
Let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Marist, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Marist has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for re-election, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is re-elected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country is on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track.
That's a lot of energy on a Tuesday. I like his animated style.
Cut of coffee.
Yeah, look, visual
Cup of coffee back on that
representation.
one.
Yeah, visual representation of what's happening right now with the polls, despite the rhetoric from a lot of folks that this is the worst time ever and Americans hate what's happening.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, I think the president's going to stay focused on the business ahead. And one of those things that is in the near future is a decision, a historic decision, a business deal unlike anything we've ever seen in America. And that is, who will buy TikTok? Will the United States government own a piece of TikTok in the future when its Chinese owners are jettisoned from the project? We're very lucky to be joined by the founder and CEO of Omnivest Financial. He has a near $50 billion bid to take over TikTok. He's one of the finalists for this. He is Reed Rassman. He joins us right now. Reed, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited about our bid to make America great again, and God bless President Trump.
There are a lot of people watching this closely. A lot of 170 million Americans use this platform daily. You have some really unique aspects to your bid, including you're the highest bid. 2, you've got a great idea for Americans whose data may get sold. And 3, I think you checked the box that Donald Trump wanted checked, which is help create a sovereign wealth fund out of this. Walk us through your bid.
Absolutely. So we're nearly $50 billion, $20 billion more than any bid out there. So we are the highest bid at the table. Not only that, we're delivering a massive 100-day win for President Trump by creating the Sovereign Wealth Fund. We are donating 5% of our TikTok bid, 5% of $50 billion to the Sovereign Wealth Fund to establish this fund. Not only that, we're allowing the United States government the option to buy in at the $50 billion valuation in the future. So even if it's worth $100 billion or $1 trillion, like President Trump says, the United States government can take a larger stake in TikTok if they'd like and increase their shares in the Sovereign Wealth Fund at the $50 billion valuation. As far as the data is concerned, people on Facebook, on Twitter, and X, wherever you are, you're giving your data away for free. That happens no longer. We are going to revolutionize social media, and it will never be the same again because you're going to be able to opt in to give us your data. And when you do that, you're going to receive a payment for us using your data. So we're going to share the profits with you, the consumer. So 170 million Americans on TikTok today will receive a paycheck in the mail tomorrow just for having the app on their phone. If they're content creators, they're going to get a larger check. If they're consuming more content, they're going to get a larger check. And you're going to be able to monetize your data and make money off of your data rather than giving it to these social media giants for free. Our offer is truly the American First offer, and we're excited to be part of this. We're excited to be one of the finalists, and we're excited to deliver a huge win to President Trump and the American First offer on the table and bring this app to America. This is an exciting time for everyone.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, Reed. And there's something else that I noticed about it. As a successful businessman, you obviously know the value of endearing yourself to a negotiator or a buyer, because I noticed that price tag at $47.45. That wasn't a coincidence, was it?
I don't think it was a coincidence, but I can tell you it's a fair offer. And you know, the most important thing in any business transaction, whether it's unprecedented or not, is that everyone walk away from the table happy and everyone walk away in good spirits. So I want to make sure that ByteDance has a fair offer on the table to accept, and I want to make sure they walk away happy. I want to make sure the American people are happy with what's happening, and I want to make sure that President Trump, above all else, is happy with what's happening. And this is a win-win-win situation. America wins, ByteDance wins, President Trump wins again. And he said we'd be sick of winning, and I can tell you I'm not sick of winning, and we're going to continue to win under President Trump's leadership. So we're excited about the offer. We're excited about TikTok. Go to founderstalk.com to learn more about it, and we're excited to bring this to America.
Yeah, I checked it out. It's a really interesting website. Learned a lot. All right, you're an exclusive company. There's only 4 parties that are able to bid at this level. You're obviously at the highest level. What interested you about TikTok? Where do you see this, and why, as such a successful investor in the past, why does this one appeal to you so much?
Well, there's several reasons. One, it's a great value for the company. We get to protect a national security risk right now with the data and how it's being leveraged against Americans and used against Americans. Not only that, but we get to revolutionize an entire industry. This is brand new. It's never been done before, where we get to actually pay the consumers, the people who download the app. You get paid just for having it on your phone and saying opt in. Of course, you get the option to opt out and say, I'm not going to give you my data. And with that, you don't get paid, and that's fine. You can still use the app for free. But we are revolutionizing. This is very forward thinking, and we are laying the foundation for what social media will become in the future and how users will own their data rather than letting these massive Silicon Valley big tech giants own them and large countries own it. We're going to let the users own it and let them monetize it and let them have control over their data and that algorithm that's so important to make sure their content is fresh in their feed and their TikToks that they make are put in front of the right audience and they're being consumed by the right people. That's so important to us, but truly it's a national security play, and it's a huge win for President Trump. So these are a lot of the things that brought our investment group to the table.
Exciting.
It's really, really exciting. I want to ask you, though, because there is an X factor here in that this move could be political, because if it is viewed as a win for President Trump, then Democrats and Democrat activists across the country are probably going to have something to say about it and to do about it. I'm sure that factored in when you decided if this was a worthy investment.
Well, it's definitely factored in, but this is nonpartisan and this is business. President Trump gets the win. America wins, so Democrats can't complain about that. America wins with a sovereign wealth fund, and it truly starts making money and becoming a massive investment vehicle for America. I can't understand how anyone would be against America winning, Americans being safer. So I don't think that this is a partisan issue. I believe that Democrats and Republicans alike can get behind us, and it's a win-win situation. President Trump is leading the way. We're doing this for Americans, for President Trump. We're excited about it, and I think a lot of Americans are, especially according to our inbox. We get thousands of emails and messages from people excited about what's happening and how they can monetize and own their data. It's truly forward-thinking, revolutionizing this industry and bringing something special to America that's never been done before. So I don't think it's a partisan issue, and I think Democrats are going to love the platform just as much as Republicans, and I look forward to sending their paychecks to them too.
I have a funny a suspicion that people in the big blue sky country of Wyoming and Montana are going to be pretty excited too, because you're going to be bringing a lot of jobs there. Reed, congratulations on finishing as a finalist here. We can't wait to see how this checks out. Thanks for briefing us. We really enjoyed it today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, and I look forward to coming back.
Yeah, very good. Oh, that's really fascinating, Amanda.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh,
I
I
love
know
it.
about that. You could get paid for being on TikTok. That's pretty wild. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we spent a little bit of time earlier today with the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Jim Jordan. He talked about all of his plans for judicial reform. He's got big ideas to rein in judicial overreach and some of the ethics concerns. We're going to have that next, right after this message. Hey America, the fight to restore our great nation is only beginning, and now is the time to take a stand, and Patriot Mobile is leading the charge. As America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, Patriot Mobile offers a way to vote with your wallet without compromising on quality or convenience. That's important, right? Patriot Mobile isn't just about providing exceptional cell phone service, it's a call to action to defend our rights and our freedoms. With Patriot Mobile, you'll get outstanding nationwide coverage because they operate on all 3 major networks. Now, if you have cell phone service today, you can get cell phone service with Patriot Mobile with a coverage guarantee. But the difference is every dollar you spend supports the First and Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, and our veterans and first responders. Switching is easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% US-based customer support team are going to help you find the right plan for you. Right now, go to patriotmobile.com/justnews or call 972-PATRIOT and get a free month of service with promo code JUSTNEWS. Switch to Patriot Mobile today and defend freedom with every call and text you make. Visit patriotmobile.com/justnews or call 972-PATRIOT.
Welcome back, everybody. We spent much of last night's show talking about the injunctions, the stays, the general blockages against this administration, especially this early in his tenure. So tonight we've got someone who's going to talk to us about all of that, what can possibly be done on a congressional level. The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Hey, man, good to be with you guys.
Yes, sir. All right. So inferior courts fall under the purview of Congress. That's your jurisdiction. I know obviously Supreme Court is outside of that, but these are inferior courts. What can Congress do?
Well, there's three avenues Congress has to deal with this situation. One is legislative, and we're already working on that. We passed a bill out of committee 2.5 weeks ago that the speakers indicated they're going to put on the floor next week. But that bill says when you have one of these federal district judges who issues an injunction, you know, some judge in Timbuktu, California issues an injunction, it should only apply to the parties in the case and in that respective jurisdiction. It shouldn't have nationwide application. So we think that makes sense. We passed that bill a couple weeks ago, and like I said, I think the speaker and the leader are going to put that on the floor next week, and it should get the votes and pass out of the House, and hopefully through the Senate. I think Senator Hawley's introducing similar legislation, so hopefully we can get that all the way to the president's desk. And then you also you can look at the appropriations process with these judges. I don't think we should in any way jeopardize security for our judges. We saw what happened to Justice Kavanaugh, but there can be other things that we do in the appropriations process that are appropriate. And then finally, you do oversight. We're planning hearings. The first hearing would start next Tuesday. We'll announce those witnesses as soon as we finalize them, but you can do some hearings. And I think in those hearings, we'll focus on the injunction issue, but also this ruling, this order from Judge Boasberg, which, just on its face is so ridiculous. I mean, he basically said, turn the plane around, bring the bad guys. And when I say bad guys, I mean gang members, hardened criminals who were here illegally. They weren't here to be Boy Scouts. They were here to do bad things. They did bad things. This judge said, turn the plane around and bring the bad guys back. That makes no sense. And so I think that'll come up in this hearing next week as well.
Yeah, really important. Speaking of Judge Boasberg, yesterday we had a story that he attended this junket last summer, July, in Idaho. The group, Rodell Institute, used to be bipartisan, but now its CEO is very anti-Trump. The speakers are anti-Trump. The funders are anti-Trump, and they're specifically anti-Trump when it comes to the issue of immigration policy. Two questions for you. One, is that the sort of thing that could be a disqualifier for Judge Boasberg in this case? And two, is it time for Congress to consider maybe ending these junkets? Should judges really be able to take free trips from special interests?
Well, I think a fair question, something that I think we'll probably get into in the course of our investigative and oversight work. But I think when you look at Judge Boasberg, you can, I believe, start to ask the question, okay, remember what Chief Justice Roberts said a week ago. He said, when you have bad judicial decisions, the remedy is the appellate court. Well, I get that. Right. We all get that. We all understand that. But when you got a judge whose behavior is so political against President Trump, you kind of got to start asking the question, really, is this just a bad judicial decision, or is this based on politics? And again, when you look at how ridiculous this decision was, telling the, turn the plane around, bring the bad guys back here, and you couple that with what you described, or maybe more importantly for me, we all know, John, Judge Boasberg was the judge involved in the whole FISA court issuing the warrants to spy on President Trump's campaign. We all know Judge Boasberg was involved in Kevin Kleinsmith, the guy who altered documents in front of the FISA court, changed them 180 degrees. That Judge Boasberg was involved in giving Kevin Kleinsmith, the person who did the altering of the documents, to give him like the slap on the wrist sentence. So you put all that together, it starts to look like this guy is politically driven against President Trump, and that should be a concern. And I think some of that information will come out in the hearing as well.
Do you think he should disqualify himself now, step aside? Do you think he has enough to recuse himself from this case?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen based on his ruling. I think those are kind of things that will, our members will look at and will be raised in this hearing that we're scheduling for next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Sir, when it comes to the judicial reform option legislatively, I love the bill that you guys have in the House. I know the companion bill in the Senate is going to look great as well. But when it comes to whatever is reconciled or whichever one wins out, is that just going to require a simple majority?
No, you have to get to 60 votes in the Senate. But I think this is a fair question. If we can pass it in the House, we can get it over the Senate. It's Senator Grassley, and then it'll, up to Chairman Grassley. If he brings it up and they work on the bill, at some point you call the question if you can, and you see if there's some Democrats to say, this makes, because remember, it can go the other way. We actually went to judges to try to stop President Biden. There were conservative lawyers who took cases to judges to stop President Biden on the student loan forgiveness issue and some other things. But we all know it's been disproportionate. I think the Speaker said it's like 60-some% of all these have happened to President Trump. Just disproportionately going after President Trump, and forum shopping, I think, for some of these left-wing activist judges, that is a concern. So, I think we're going to try to look at all that as we go through our oversight and look at legislative remedies. And whether they can get 60 votes in the Senate, it might be difficult. I get that, but I think we should try.
Yeah. So you had an important markup today. You're working on a bill that would create reciprocity, basically carry a responsible nationwide concealed carry option. If you get it in one state, it should be recognized in all states. Tell us why that's important and what its likelihood of passage is.
Well, we think it's strong likelihood of passing the committee. We're gonna try to get that done later today. It's a great bill, and the reason it's important is because the Second Amendment's right next to the First. I mean, and the founders understood how important it was. That's why they made it the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. It's critically important. And if you're a law-abiding citizen, you undergo a background check, you've done the training, and you're entitled to carry a concealed firearm to protect yourself, your family, your property in your state, we think should be able to do that in other states as well, because it's a right that doesn't stop at a state line, for goodness sake. So we think this is a good bill. It recognizes the importance of the rights we enjoy under our great Constitution. And we think we're going to get the votes in the committee, and we think we can get passed on the floor as well.
Huge moment.
Sir, now that there is an FBI director who is probably going to be a little bit more amenable to turning over documents when Congress requests them, you've got, a whole trove of documents you'll have to look at with respect to the FBI and Catholics attending Latin Mass and parents in school board meetings. What is that process going to look like?
Well, I mean, a great point. It's night and day. We sent subpoenas because, they can't just turn everything over. Sometimes you need a subpoena. We sent subpoenas to the FBI, and the response we get, in a general sense, from Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, is so different than the Biden, Garland, Wray Justice Department. So we really appreciate the leadership that we now have at the Justice Department. It's the kind of leadership we want. And we want to know some answers to the questions the American people have on all those issues. The school board's issue, if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist, that memorandum that they wrote, that was so ridiculous. We don't know about that. And I got to be honest, I really want to know about the confidential human sources who were there on January 6, 2021. There were 26 of these confidential human sources. 17 went in the restricted states. They weren't authorized to do so. 4 went in the Capitol who weren't authorized to do so. None of them were charged. 2 of the 4 who went in the Capitol were actually asked by the FBI to be present that day at this event. Wow. I got all kinds of. How long were they sources? How much had you paid them? How long had they been paid? Were they paid for what they did that day? Was things they told you and conveyed to you, was that used in the prosecutions of people? Why weren't they prosecuted? I mean, there's 1,000 questions I think people have that we don't know the answers to, and Chris Wray would never give us the answers to. We had to get this information, as you all know, from the Inspector General. So we want that information and a host of it. We want to know about the Iran hacking President Trump's campaign and that information winding up at the Harris campaign. That's crazy. So there's a number of things we've asked for, and the good news is they're doing their best to get us everything they can, which is not the attitude we saw and the response we got from the previous administration.
Sir, real quickly before we let you go, have you been able to get any new information about the assassination attempts on President Trump? There seems to be so many unanswered questions. Do you have any insight as to what we may have learned or what we have learned already?
Another important subject that the people of this great country are entitled to have their questions answered. So we will work on that too. We have not got anything new that we can convey now, but we're going to continue to try to get information on that issue as well.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I know you have been champing at the bit to get to work now that you have the tools to do so with this administration. We appreciate everything you do. Thank you for being here.
You bet. Thanks for all your good work, guys. Take care.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side.
Folks, let me encourage you to do something right now. You need to join AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Right now, I'm not kidding. If you care about your country, your freedom, and your hard-earned money, then AMAC is the organization that fights for you. Unlike the other so-called senior organization that sold out to the radical left, AMAC stands for conservative values, limited government, lower taxes, protecting your Social Security, and of course, defending our Constitution. And listen to this, right now, you can sign up for a 5-year membership, just like I have, for just $31. It's normally $60. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Visit amac.us/justnews to join right now. AMAC is growing fast because patriots like you and me are joining the fight. They give you exclusive discounts on travel insurance and more. I use that all the time. But most importantly, they give you a voice in Washington. So don't wait. Join AMAC today. Go to amac.us/justnews. Welcome back, America. We want to dig in a little bit deeper to the story we talked about at the top. The Democrats and the media are trying their best to create a scandal out of something that probably is not that big a deal. But we're going to turn to a true national security expert. She's the former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump in his first term, currently is the Vice President of National Security and Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation. She's one of our favorites, Victoria Coates. Victoria, welcome back.
Great to be with you.
All right, so we know that the Signal platform had been approved by the Biden administration to use for sensitive conversations. We know there's no classified information, if you believe Tulsi Gabbard. Why is everybody up in arms about this?
Oh, I think what you're seeing are the opponents of Donald Trump and his administration just desperately grasping at straws to try to bring them down. And, you know, I'm old enough to remember when they went after General Flynn in the first 30 days of the first Trump term. It was incredibly disruptive. It was a terrible thing for the National Security Council staff and for the administration. And I think the opponents of President Trump, and unfortunately, I think there's some of them on both sides of the aisle, but it's predominantly the Democrats. They are going after this non-story to try to create a disruption again in the National Security Council. And so, you know, this is a process error. It is, you know, probably something we need to pay some attention to. If Signal was approved by the Biden administration, and it is in the cyber agency, the CISA sort of guidelines that this kind of encrypted app is permissible for high value individuals. You know, if that is a problem, then we need a new system. But these guys shouldn't be penalized for having a substantive policy discussion on an important issue on something they thought was sanctioned.
Victoria, there are various and sundry Democrat opinions out there, members of Congress, by the way, who are suggesting that they should go to jail or that Americans could have died. I mean, all sorts of histrionic language out there. And I just keep thinking to myself, we never heard any of this out of them after Afghanistan, and Afghanistan was a bona fide disaster for this country. It's not even apples to oranges. It's apples to mustard seeds.
I mean, I would say it's apples to sharks. And this is just unconscionable that they would take this attitude. If you think back to August of 2021, if you remember, this was when we probably should have gotten the word that something wasn't right with President Biden when they took 2 weeks off. I mean, this never happened under President Trump, that suddenly the entire White House staff is going to take 2 weeks off when you're in the middle of a crisis, which had started the previous month, and they weren't talking to each other. And what did we get? We got the horrific crisis at Abbey Gate, 13 American heroes killed, hundreds of Afghans, others wounded, just a catastrophe because of lack of communication between the elements of the national security apparatus of that administration. Here we have people having a fulsome discussion, a counterterrorism operation, and guess what? The terrorists died, not the Americans. This is what we want to see, Amanda. We want to see progress. And as I said, if there is a process issue here, as the president said today, we'll get after it. That's not the problem. You know, this is something we can solve. And nobody died except for the terrorists, except for the Houthi, and that was the desired end state. And you know, we got to a good outcome. So this is not even remotely comparable. And that the folks who, you know, carried the water for the Biden people for years after that debacle would now come out and criticize, you know, President Trump's administration is beyond the pale.
If it weren't for this story today of Democrats taking all the oxygen out of the room, a lot of people would be talking about the historic breakthrough that Donald Trump and his team achieved with Russia and Ukraine. Yes, it's a small step, but it's the only time in the 3-year war of the Russia-Ukraine war where there's been progress towards peace. Tell us how important the ceasefire in the Black Sea, the ceasing of military operations in the Black Sea is for both countries and for where we go next.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I condone the Signal thing, but I've got to say, if you get results like this, they can chat all they want because we've actually taken a step towards peace. And so this is the grain deal that President Biden tried to get back in 2022 and failed to do because Ukraine is one of the world's great food exporters, primarily to developing countries, which are intensely food vulnerable. So these are some of the neediest people on the planet who will now have a ready supply of grain again. This is a very good thing for just humanity. And also good for Ukraine. It's also good for Russia. They're taking a lot of pain in their Navy in the Black Sea. They don't want to do that anymore. That will stop. So this is a really good confidence building first step. As you said, John, nobody's gotten any progress on anything for the last 3+ years. And so finally we have this good step. Hopefully this will lead to the 30-day ceasefire, which will bring some relief to the people of Ukraine. Hopefully let Putin, you know, sort of consolidate what he needs to consolidate, and then we can move on to a real deal. But it's a historic achievement today, a very good day for the Trump administration, and a good day for the national security of the American people.
Yeah. If this is what a scandal in the Trump administration results in, taking out America's enemies and the world's terrorists, then I'll take more scandals, I suppose. I want to get back to the basics, though, and I've kind of mentioned this in jest when it comes to communications between national security officials, and you know, going back to something that's more old school. Is there a remedy to this? It's obviously not going to be on any type of open chat, but if Signal is not secure, what would you suggest?
No, this is something we tangled with in the first Trump term as communications have evolved. And so you have situations where people are traveling, you know, to various places. And the important thing is that these folks are able to communicate, because when you have a lack of communication, you wind up with stovepipes, you wind up with problems, you wind up with unnecessary frictions. And if we can come up with a platform, and maybe that's what this inspires, is we finally get, you know, and this would be a great project for Elon Musk, for example, find the secure U.S. government chat that can't be broken by hostile third parties, and create a way that our senior folks can communicate in real time. And so when you have an action like this, and people are in not only different states but different countries, they can feel able to communicate like this, that you don't need to get everyone physically into the sit room. As desirable as that is, it's just not practical. And so I think this should be, you know, a wake-up call that we need that kind of platform. As I said, I think Elon would be the perfect person to look into what that might be, and, you know, and continue the kind of good, robust, real-time discussion that was reported in the Atlantic of all places.
Yeah. Real quickly, there is in all of this already a system where secure phones for top security officials, you can get up to the top secret level for encryption. It seems like just building off that phone capability and adding an encrypted chat would solve this problem. And by the way, solve problems going all the way back to Hillary Clinton's email. You think someone's working on that today?
I would expect there are some folks that are putting in some late hours today to see if we could get there. I wish we had done it 8 years ago, but if it happens because of this, then this was no harm, no foul. You know, as we said, a tempest in a teapot. It's the Democrats grasping at straws, but maybe it'll have a beneficial outcome for all Americans.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. Let's turn this into a win. Victoria Coates, you do that every time you come on to this show. You always give us such great wisdom. Thanks for joining us today. Great to have you on.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Hey, a little breaking news. President Trump has signed an executive order that will require all 50 states to do citizenship checks before someone is allowed to participate in a federal election. You can go check that out at justthenews.com. All right, quick commercial break. When we come back, a big discussion about energy. All the big developments are going on that front. We'll have that next after these messages.
Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. One of the Trump administration's top concerns when coming into governance was American energy and how to unleash its potential after the Biden administration tried to basically tie it down and handcuff it. And there's another bit of information that we found out last week that sheds a little bit of light on how they tried to do that. Remember when President Biden, his reluctance to push natural gas, he actually put a pause on federal permitting for LNG and cited it was due to environmental concerns. Well, it turns out that his administration was sitting on a study that they did that said that LNG exports did not impact the climate. So why would they do that? Joining us now to discuss that and more is the former chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, Neil Chatterjee. Neil, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think I know the answer to why, but why would they sit on a study that shows that domestic production of liquefied natural gas that would help the American economy, help the American people? Why would they sit on that?
Politics. It's that simple. Look, when I was the chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, one of our principal responsibilities was the evaluation and certification of applications for liquefied natural gas export facilities. And during the time, I had, along with former Secretary of Energy Rick Perry, referred to U.S. LNG exports as freedom gas. And I got crushed for it. But the reality is, it really is freedom gas. LNG and LNG exports lead to economic development and job creation domestically here at home in the U.S. They have huge geopolitical significance in that they're giving our allies an alternative to piped in Russian gas, particularly in Europe. And here's the irony of the whole situation: clean US LNG, because we do it better than anybody else, actually displaces dirtier sources of energy overseas, particularly in Southeast Asia. And we do it much cleaner than Russia. So it's good for the economy, it's good for foreign policy, and it's good for the climate. I actually have never understood the opposition to it, other than the fact that the Democrat base has turned hard against gas. And they were putting pressure on the Biden administration to not approve any more of these facilities. And this study was tied to the Biden administration's pause on approving certificates, free trade certificates for these LNG export facilities at a moment in time when they claim to be so concerned about our European allies in the aftermath of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The whole thing makes my head hurt.
It does. Makes a lot of people's heads hurt. And their wallets have hurt from it. I mean, that's the big thing. The American consumer paid a dear price for this. There was another landmark moment in the last 4 or 5 days, and that is the Trump administration approved a floating LNG terminal that the Biden administration had rejected or delayed or refused to approve. This is off the coast of Louisiana. This is a major leap forward for the natural gas industry. Tell us why it's so important.
Look, when you think about our economy and where we are today, and you look at some of the pressures we faced coming out of the pandemic, where would this economy be without natural gas? I think, look, there's no single commodity that you can point to say it saved the country. I really think natural gas saved the economy, saved the country from energy security standpoint, from a foreign policy standpoint, from an economic standpoint. So looking at innovative ways that we can further develop our ability to harness domestic natural gas here in the U.S. to provide not just home heating, but electricity to American consumers, and to be able to export it for American energy dominance, foreign policy significance, geopolitical leverage, and, as I mentioned, positive climate benefits. We should pursue all of these types of opportunities. And I've been very encouraged by the initial steps the administration has taken to unleash natural gas. I actually think the most significant thing that has happened thus far was, quite frankly, November 5th.
Yep.
President Trump's election sent a very clear signal to the markets that we now had an administration coming in that would be supportive of gas and supportive of LNG. One of the things that was so frustrating about the Biden administration, they spoke out both sides of their mouth, and they sent confusing signals to our allies. On the one hand, they said, we need natural gas to help Ukraine, to help our European allies. And on the other hand, they put a pause on LNG exports. And what that did, it had a chilling effect on investment. So long-term contracts for natural gas, these aren't like 1 or 2 year things. They're like 20-year contracts. So some of our allies were reluctant to sign these deals with the U.S. because they weren't sure what the U.S.'s long-term posture would be towards gas. So Trump just getting elected was enough to give comfort to counterparties that, hey, we can sign this deal with the U.S. and they'll actually honor it.
Mm-hmm. Neil, very quickly, we just got about 30 seconds left. Where would you like to see a broadening of LNG infrastructure? I know that there's a pipeline being considered in New York and some various areas across the country. Where else would you like to see it?
The West Coast. Look, to serve the Asian market, transportation costs and time are a big deal. And so it's too long to go through the Gulf of Mexico for our cargoes, for our ships. We need a West Coast terminal. I wrestled with this during my time at FERC. I tried to approve a terminal in Oregon, and it was blocked. California won't allow it. Oregon won't allow it. We are blocked on our left, on our West Coast. And that inability is going to hinder our opportunities to serve the Asian market.
Now might be the time because Gavin Newsom claims that he's much more moderate these days. So maybe that's something that could come across his desk and he might say, okay.
Good luck with that.
Neil Chatterjee, former
Serve it to him
chairman.
at French Laundry. Maybe it's French Laundry.
That's right. That's right. Put it in the menu
you
at
go.
French Laundry.
That's the
Neil
sell.
Chatterjee, former chairman of FERC. Thanks so much for being here, sir. We'll have you back on soon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We'll be right back after this break.
Welcome back, America. At the top of the show, Amanda showed that extraordinary clip of that CNN pollster who was so excited about the Trump numbers. I mean, he was gyrating like nothing. And I was thinking, it's time to send that man a bag of the new decaffeinated coffee from Wire to Fish Coffee. Joining us right now, one of our great partners here at Just the News, the co-founder of Wire to Fish Coffee, my favorite coffee, Leah Thomas. Leah, it's good to have you back.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We are great. I'm telling you, I'm ordering a decaf bag. I'm sending it to that guy tomorrow. He's going to be so happy when he tastes it. Give us an update on all of the great things you're doing. Your brand lines are expanding. You've got a lot of great growth. Tell us just the latest news.
Yeah, our decaf has been a big hit that we launched, it was been about a month and a half ago or so. We're in the final bag production for cold brew for summer coming around the corner. So I expect that to be out maybe in a couple of weeks. It's going to be delicious with some chocolate and some blackberry flavoring to it. So we're pretty excited about that. And then we're just excited about all of our projects that we have going on right now, especially the filter project. They've been doing some really cool stuff in Africa.
I love that. A lot of people in our audience are believers and they donate to various causes. What I love about your business is that you are a ministry partner and a coffee maker all in one. So people get to donate to you and that goes to further the kingdom. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. We give back 18% of our profit to faith-based initiatives and a variety of things around the world that just spread the gospel. And one of our favorite projects, and I think Amanda might be one of yours as well, is the filter project. It meshes really well because we also give back 7% to clean water initiatives. So we take a water filter into the slums of Nairobi. We talk to them about Jesus. And last year we reached households that had 1,600 kids in them. So when I look at those kid numbers, man, it makes my heart just so excited for the impact that we could have on their future.
That is amazing. And also for all of us who love the outdoors, who love conservation, who care about clean water, want our children and grandchildren to enjoy the fishing and other things that we've done in the outdoors, you're also investing in that. Tell us some of the great conservation projects you're getting behind.
We are. We've got, like I mentioned, 7% that goes into clean water conservation. We do everything from river and lake cleanups. In fact, we'll have a cleanup coming up here in about a month and a half with a pro angler that we've worked with in the past. And we also are working on some greenhouse initiatives to put plant life into man-made reservoirs so that we can have healthy fish and just healthy bodies of water in general. But we are looking for additional projects in that water conservation space, and we haven't quite found anything that quite fits our bill.
Oh, that's so cool.
I've always loved the double entendre of your name because you are fishers of fish and also fishers of men with all of that combined ministry. I want to ask you about the filters that you take into these areas because I imagine this is kind of a delicate operation to make sure that you are getting water to as many people. It's probably a huge operation, to be frank. What is that like?
You know, it's a challenge because you want to help everybody at once. We took 1,100 filters into the slums of Kitale this year with the filter project. The next phase they're moving into is more rural, though. There's a place called Serende, and it's where they grow a lot of the food for Kenya. And those people are pulling their water out of the same pond that cows are drinking out of and pooping in and things like that. And so I don't know, like you said, it's just hard to know where to even look next because the demand is so high. We actually had some people from our church do another mission there with an orphanage, and they were drinking terrible water. So, you know, please, Lord, just multiply because there are so many people that could use help in this world, and we just want to be able to be at the forefront of giving back there.
Everybody watching this show can make a difference. Just buy a bag or two or three or five of Wired to Fish Coffee, because it's going to make a difference. Every cup of coffee you drink, you're helping us make a difference, Leah. You also did something special for us. We're in an era of inflation. You got the Inflation Buster bags, the 2 and 5 pound bags. How are those selling?
You know, I wish we had introduced those 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about them. They are really, I mean, people just love coffee, and a 12-ounce bag isn't enough for most households. So the 2 and 5 pound bags that we've launched are flying off the shelves, so much so that we're going to put together a really nice bag for Amazon so that we can sell it there as well, because we just want to make it easy for people to get our product so that we can just move our mission forward and be out there angling and enjoying nature as well as helping people out.
Nothing goes better with a little bit of fishing than a cup of coffee in the morning when you get up early, and Wired to Fish Coffee is the only way to go, folks. Bless Leah and her company. Go get some coffee. Go get one of the mugs. Go get one of the Just the News tumblers, whatever it takes. This is such a great company. And by the way, you're going to be blessed with great coffee, and you're going to be doing good with every cup you drink going forward. That is a game changer. It certainly has been for me. Go check them out today. WiredToFishCoffee.com, and you get 10% off if you use the Just News promo code at checkout. Leah, thank you so much for making a great product and always sharing your time with us. We adore what you're doing. All right. It's hard to believe the hour is up. We must hand the baton to our good friend Grant Stinchfeld. We'll be back tomorrow night. Check out the breaking news at Just News. A lot of things